I presume you're here in order to learn of Magecraft. I'll have you know, there's no room for the weak-willed in this course, and despite your best efforts, the sorcery of our time is but a fraction of what it once was in the Age of Gods. Much of the craft is established through pedigree, and the culture of mages is riddled with deception and moral depravity. That said, if you insist, I shall do my best to educate you in this miserable, yet fascinating world. In our previous lesson, I covered the spiritual tomb of Albion, the labyrinth the clock tower was built upon. Part of this tomb is unique in that it shelters the stored mages held captive under Sealing Designation. This is one of the most ominous practices the Association has, so it is urgent that I cover it in today's lesson. Fundamentally, the Mages Association is a troublesome organization composed of many feuding lords and their families. Some are concerned most with the preservation of Magecraft, while others only care about upholding their elitist stature. Scattered between these dominating forces are individual mages who follow their own unique path to the root. Without any political sway, these mages sometimes achieve great things, and left to their own devices, they will keep that knowledge to themselves. In some cases, a mage's talents are exclusive to their own body and bloodline, making it seemingly impossible for others to replicate. Should these mages die, their discoveries and abilities are also lost. To that end, the Association makes it a priority to try and preserve these outstanding mages. Put bluntly, a sealing designation is a mark, a branding if you will, that is given to a mage selected for preservation. On one hand, receiving a designation is like a badge of honor, an official recognition of a mage's achievements. On the other, it is quite literally a death sentence. Mages who comply with a sealing designation are taken in and sealed away. Whether or not the target dies, their pursuit of Magecraft comes to an abrupt end. As a result, most mages who receive a designation go into hiding, seeing the Association as an enemy rather than an ally. No mage is happy with this decree, or at the very least, no mage who is can testify as such. The mages selected for sealing typically fall into two categories. First, there are hermits, mages who have already separated from the Association. They seclude themselves from the rest of the world to perfect their craft in secret. These cases are more common, but less severe. Often, the Association will settle for surveillance rather than apprehension. What tips the scale is the value of that target's research. Philosophers, however, are mages who actively improve their craft at the expense of rules and regulations. Their research affects innocent people, in turn risking the concealment of mystery. While it's still a priority to preserve these mages, it is more urgent that they be eliminated. At the lowest level of the spiritual tomb of Albion, one will find the Secret Judgment Division, or Carillon Observatory. This facility is led by the mage Miliun Carillon, who is known as the giver of all sealing designations. It is ironic that one of the world's top magi is responsible for judging whether or not other mages have grown too much for their own good. Regardless, when a sealing designation is announced, it is accompanied by the ringing of a giant bell within the observatory. Certainly, it seems counterintuitive to have an observational facility built so deep underground. However, mages have their way of observing the world beyond our ordinary senses. It is more important that captives remain hidden, especially considering the grim nature of their processing. This remains a secret even to many in the clock tower, but when a designated mage is caught, only their brain, eyes, nerves, and magic circuits are preserved. These components are kept in specialized jars that serve as the mage's exoskeleton. The rest of their body is discarded, unless deemed relevant to their abilities. Most would consider this murder, but the Association feels it is a necessary process given how immortality isn't exactly feasible. Using this method, still living mages can research and even use preserved remains to cast spells. It is almost as if designated mages are turned into mystic codes, their achievements stripped away for the sake of other mages. Those who know the truth are even more likely to avoid being captured. To actually make these apprehensions, the association relies on specialized mages known as Sealing Designation Enforcers, or simply Enforcers for short. Similar to how the Church hires executors to hunt and destroy vampires and heretics, the Enforcers are tasked with hunting and capturing targets designated by the Carillon Observatory. For as important as their job is, most Enforcers are strangely looked down upon. Even though the elite benefits from this service, they consider it dirty work only fit for clock tower rejects or novices. To that end, Enforcers aren't given enough pay or authority to perform their duties. For example, they are forbidden from interfering with rituals like the Holy Grail Wars, even when designated mages are participating. One of the most skillful Enforcers is Bazette Fraga McRemitz. She was born to a long-running mage family in an Irish village. Her ancestors had separated from the association, but at the age of 15, Bazette sought to rejoin the association, but was evaluated poorly. Considered useless for the clock tower, she was instead employed as an enforcer for her combat prowess. Due to a recommendation from Kire Kotomine, Bazette was able to set aside her title to participate in the war as a master. Had only she known that Kire was planning to kill her and steal away her servant, Ku Hullen. Another mage who used to be an enforcer is Cornelius Alba. During his prime, he was seen aiding the Holy Church in quelling a vampire outbreak on Alimango Island. He would later go on to study at the clock tower under Inorai Valuoletta Atraholm. A lesser-known enforcer is Forte, the eldest daughter of a long-lasting family. Throughout her many battles, she once broke protocol to protect a Sealing-designated mage. In all, there are about 30 official enforcers, but that number is supplemented by various freelance mages who treat Sealing designations as bounties. By essentially sniping prey from the enforcers, these freelancers can sell captive mages back to the association at inflated prices. Natalia Kaminsky is one such freelancer. She and her protege, Kiritsugu Emiya, also hunt down designated mages, but given their rarity, the two thrive mainly off of executing heretics. An actual designation is considered big game in this business. Both enforcers and freelancers are lucky to come across even one per decade. One of these rare cases was actually Kiritsugu's father, Noritaka Emiya. His family's unique craft was time manipulation, which utilized a reality marble to either accelerate or halt the flow of time. The association gave Noritaka a Sealing designation after it was discovered that his Magecraft could be used to reach the root. By concealing themselves in a shrunken, bounded field, a mage could accelerate their flow of time to survive past the end of the universe, where the root would surely lie. Even knowing this was just a theory, the association sought to capture him anyway. Thus, Noritaka spent more than 20 years hiding from the enforcers, during which his wife was found and killed. Barely escaping this encounter, he and his son fled to Alimango Island in the Philippines. There, he was able to further his research, using spells to slow the aging process of plants. Things went south when Noritaka's assistant, Shirley, used the formula on herself, which transformed her into a dead apostle. Her condition spread throughout the village, drawing in the Holy Church, enforcers, and freelancers alike. Despite corrupting so many innocent victims, Noritaka figured he could simply pack up and try again elsewhere. Rejecting this arrogance, it was his own son who ended his life. While Kiritsugu still utilizes time manipulation to slow his heart and accelerate his body, the association was satisfied with merely preserving Noritaka's remains. These remains were held in the Carillon Observatory until, decades later, Dr. Heartless would break in and steal them in an effort to tap into the Emiya's Magecraft. Another Seal-designated mage is Satsuki Kurogiri. After an encounter with fairies, he suffered a condition that prevented him from retrieving memories. His brain could store new memories, but to recognize them as his own, he had to store them as descriptive words. This obscure approach to thought allowed him to both learn and master what is called the Unified Language, the primordial language of ancient Babylonia. Given its age, the Unified Language is said to draw upon records from the root. Thus, as the only living person to speak this language, the association has targeted Satsuki with a Sealing designation. While it is rare for Sealing designations to be issued in the first place, it is even rarer for them to be rescinded. However, it is possible for a mage to have their seal lifted if they can prove useful to the association in other ways. One such mage is Nigel, who had earned a seal for his potent magical drugs. Before he could be captured, however, he was chosen as a master by the Holy Grail and gifted command spells. So long as Nigel pledged to win the Grail War for them, the Association was willing to put his sealing on hold. Taking advantage of this grace period, Nigel tried to stall the war while he perfected his craft. Another rare exception is the brilliant mage Toko Aozaki. Despite being rejected as the inheritor of her family's magic crest, Toko studied at the clock tower and quickly made a name for herself by making automaton puppets. While she can churn out hundreds of mass-produced models with ease, her crowning achievement is making dolls that are incredibly lifelike. It is said that, since their inception, humans have diversified genetically to the point where we no longer resemble our primordial model. Through her doll making, Toko aimed to recreate the original human, but eventually gave up on such a lofty goal. Regardless, she achieved something just as impressive by creating a completely identical doll of herself, one that is indistinguishable from the real thing. This is what earned her a sealing designation. Fortunately, however, Toko was able to prove she was worth more alive than dead. When she studied at the clock tower, she specialized in runes and helped the Association recover various runes that had been lost to time. She sold these runes to the clock tower in exchange for having her sealing designation revoked. As a safety measure, though, she kept a few of these runes to herself, just in case the Association tried to back out of the deal. Sure enough, years later, she once again got into trouble with the clock tower and had her designation reinstated. It is the first time a mage has ever received a sealing designation twice. Beyond issuing seals and preserving mages, the Carillon Observatory has one other related function. Would you believe me if I told you mages have a system for copyright? Indeed, the Association has a thriving economy made from selling patents. Since the observatory is connected to a rich mana ley line, it can detect the use of patented spells from deep underground. In conjunction with several smaller observatories, the clock tower can trace spells across most of the planet. This means that you cannot use another mage's spells or techniques without first paying for them. In summation, mages are constantly on edge when it comes to perfecting their craft. Those who achieve new feats are essentially punished through sealing designations. Rather than receiving extra funding or support, the clock tower instead sends enforcers to capture, kill, and preserve accomplished mages so that their spells aren't lost to time. Personally, I feel this system stunts the growth of Magecraft. Hunting heretics is one thing, but in the process of preserving a mage's work, the Association is preventing that mage from growing their craft even further. Oftentimes, who receives a designation or not is politically motivated. Since the Carillon Observatory gets its name from observing mana ley lines, I plan to dedicate our next lesson to elaborating on exactly what ley lines are, as well as how we can use them. Thanks for watching.
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to Otaku Daikun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all our anime lore, discussions, and Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or a YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like spicy exclusive vids and early access.
As always, celebrate your fandom. I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters: VideoGamer75, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Samuel Gersten, The Nonchalant Ostrich, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Lord Omagoden, Freebrick, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Olympian Doll, Link Pendrago, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, King Kobo, Scout, Andre Foster, Zamas Autonomous, Yukie Iros, Crow Kalem, Saul Soto, Sogai CH, Caitlin P, Vladimirovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X 77, Alistair Bernadotte, and Akakaza Yume. Thank you all so much.